Thank you for joining us tonight. We will begin the program shortly. Spanish interpretation is provided by Community Language Co-op. Sam from CLC is here to provide interpretation instructions.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Guzman, and I'm here with the Community Language Co-op. And the ACLU of Colorado have made a commitment to language justice. Now, what that means is we want to create a space where everyone can participate in the language that they feel more comfortable with. We will use simultaneous interpretation to create this space. When I finish saying this same statement in Spanish, we will turn on the interpretation feature and you will see a globe icon at the bottom of your screen or under the three dots that say more. I'm going to ask you that you click on that icon and select your preferred language, in this case, either English or Spanish. When you do select your preferred language, make sure you also check mute original audio so you don't hear both languages at the same time. Hola a todos, mi nombre es Samuel Guzmán y estoy aquí con la Community Language Co-op y estamos aquí para ayudar y crear un espacio donde practicamos la justicia del lenguaje. Lo que eso significa es que queremos crear un espacio donde todos pueden participar en el idioma de su corazón o en el idioma que se sientan más cómodos. Usaremos la interpretación simultánea para crear este espacio. Cuando termine de decir esto, activaremos la interpretación y verá un icono de globo en su pantalla que dice interpretación. Le voy a pedir que seleccione ese icono y seleccione su idioma preferido. Cuando seleccione su idioma, también haga clic silenciar audio original para que no escuche ambos idiomas a la misma vez. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and ask that we turn on the interpretation feature so we can select our preferred language. Thank you.
My name is Rachel Pryor-Lease, and I'm the ACLU of Colorado's Director of Philanthropy. I'm so excited you are joining us tonight for our 2021 Bill of Rights event. I'm eager to kick the night off, but before we begin, I need to go over a few quick items. I want to start by saying that we honor and acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories and ancestral homelands of the Cheyenne and Arapaho nations. This area was also the site of trade, hunting, gathering, and healing for many other Native nations: the Lakota, Ute, Kiowa, Comanche, Apache, Shoshone, and others. Let us also acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced removal from this territory. We respect the many diverse Indigenous peoples still connected to this land on which we gather. We pay our respect to them and give thanks to all tribal nations and the ancestors of this place. We recognize the Indigenous peoples as the original stewards of the land, water, plants, and animals who called this place home. As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties that these nations have to their traditional homelands are renewed and reaffirmed. Also, tonight's program is being recorded. CART service is provided by Visible Voices and ASL by PSLI. Spanish language interpretation is provided by the Community Language Co-op and is accessible by clicking the globe icon and selecting the Spanish channel. Thank you to our interpreters. We hope tonight's event encourages you to invest in the ACLU of Colorado's fight for equal protections for all people by making a donation this evening. Donations of any size will be entered into a drawing to win a party box from the social enterprise gift shop Hope Tank. Please use the link that is in the chat box to make sure your donation counts towards the drawing. I have also included a link so that you can see what is in the boxes. We have a number of boxes to give away, so please be sure to donate before midnight tomorrow, Friday, October 8th. At ACLU of Colorado, we are committed to understanding who our supporters are and building connections with those who are missing from the table. I'm excited that we will soon be launching our 2021 supporter survey that will inform our outreach and strategic planning. Stay on the lookout for a postcard and email with a link to the survey, and please be sure to complete the survey once you receive the link. Last but not least, many, many thanks to the coordinator of tonight's events, Susie Simmons. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I hope you enjoy our 2021 Bill of Rights event.
Good evening. My name is Maurice Scott, and I am the ACLU of Colorado's board chair. On behalf of the board and staff of the ACLU of Colorado, I would like to welcome you to this year's virtual Bill of Rights event. Thank you for joining us tonight to celebrate all of ACLU of Colorado's achievements and to honor leaders in our community who expand justice to those whose civil rights and liberties are most at stake. Tonight, we are thrilled to honor Charletta C. Evans, Hans Meyer, Lori Lizarraga, Sonia Gutierrez, and Kristen Aguirre for their work across Colorado. We are also delighted to present you our keynote speaker, Deborah Archer, the president of the president of the board of ACLU National. Our thanks to all of you who partner with us to ensure we can make a difference in the courts, in the community, and in the legislature to protect all Coloradans' civil rights and civil liberties. Tonight's event and all of our work would not be possible without generous donors like you. I'd like to extend a very special thanks to the donors who made this event this evening possible. Our thanks also go out to cooperating attorneys and law firms who help the ACLU of Colorado take on cases for clients whose rights have been violated. Our legal staff is small but mighty, so we need the help of these cooperating attorneys and firms to give their pro bono time so we can take on the most important and complex cases. I would also like to thank the many coalition and organizational partners who serve as dedicated, collaborative colleagues in this work. We know that we are stronger in community. We are only able to make impactful advancements for justice across the state because of our work together. Similarly, I would also like to thank all of the interns, volunteers, and fellows who contribute so much to this organization. Lastly, I'd like to give a huge thanks to all of the other board of directors of the ACLU of Colorado and the entire staff. Your extraordinary commitment, talent, and passion enable us to defend civil rights and civil liberties day in and day out. So thank you again for joining the ACLU of Colorado and community tonight. We are called to participate in fulfilling the promise of equal rights and equal liberties. And perhaps you can do that this evening by giving the ACLU of Colorado a small donation. Together, we will ensure equal protection for all.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Deborah Richardson, the Executive Director of ACLU of Colorado. Thank you, Dr. Maurice Scott, our board chair, for starting us off this evening. I'm so glad that you all are joining us tonight. Although we are virtual, I am nonetheless thankful to be together. As Dr. Scott mentioned in his introductory comments, we have some terrific sponsors for this evening's event. At the Freedom level, we thank Susan Stark and Bob Connolly. At the Advocate level, our thanks to Targeted Legal Staffing Solutions and the Advocates, Baker, Hostetler, and Johnson and Klein. Tonight is an opportunity to come together in our common mission of civil rights and civil liberties for all Coloradans. While I am new to Colorado, I am not new to this work. As a child growing up in Atlanta during the 1960s, the March on Washington was my first realization of the movement, something that every adult I knew was talking about and engaged in. My neighbors in Collier Heights at Black Community on the National Historic Register were actively engaged in the planning and execution of the delegation to the march from Atlanta. Every adult I knew was sharing their time, and talents to the movement, including my parents. It was a similar moment for the American Civil Rights Movement, where more than 250,000 people convened on the Mall in Washington, D.C. to show nationwide support for Black Americans to receive the same rights as white Americans. It was also a seminal moment for me. This year marked the 58th anniversary of the march, which was the connection to my lifelong career in social change and led me to become your first African-American executive director of the ACLU. My personal mission statement is to leave the world better than I found it. While I didn't know that 5 years ago I would be with you at the ACLU of Colorado, I did know that I would be continuing to dismantle systemic injustices. This affiliate has an incredible track record. So my focus is for us to build on this amazing platform and extend what we've already achieved. This year, your ACLU team worked tirelessly to make Colorado a more just state with many hard-fought victories and initiatives. It will take all night for me to tell you about them, but I will share some of the few highlights. On the legal side, we won our case against Fort Collins' unconstitutional camping ban and filed several lawsuits, including one against Douglas County School District, Sheriff, and school resource officers for handcuffing an 11-year-old child with autism, taking him to juvenile detention, and when his parents arrived, they faced a $25,000 bond. During the legislative session, we helped advance pretrial justice by limiting the number of adults in juvenile detention and requiring bond hearings within 48 hours to limit the number of adults languishing in jails. Another bill creates a statewide legal defense fund that will provide money for direct legal services to our immigrant neighbors facing deportation. With the defeat of the 2020 ballot initiative attempting to ban abortion, abortions in Colorado remain legal. We also launched our Expanding the Table campaign for justice, a series of conversations and listening sessions throughout the state to hear directly from community what issues matter most and how the ACLU can be more effective and understanding in all that we do. There is so much work still to be done toward the quest for equal rights and justice for all. The burdens are heavy but not impossible. May we continue to be inspired by the marches that came before us, the marches of today, and build a movement where peace will finally prevail. Thank you for taking this time to celebrate the recent victories of the ACLU of Colorado. It's because of you, our members, donors, and supporters, that these victories were possible. Now it's time to applaud the work of other Colorado leaders through our Bill of Rights awards presented by ACLU board member Ben Hand-Bender.
Hello, my name is Ben Hand-Bender. I am an ACLU of Colorado board member and part of the Bill of Rights event nominating committee. It is my pleasure to introduce our incredible awardees this evening. First up is the Carl Whitehead Memorial Award. Carl Whitehead helped found the ACLU of Colorado, and this award honors people who have demonstrated a lifetime commitment to justice and civil liberties. This year's recipient is Charlotta C. Evans. Ms. Evans is the executive director and founder of Colorado Crime Survivors Network and the Victim Offender Mitigation Initiative. She is a leading light in Colorado's movements for restorative justice and juvenile justice reform, and is a beacon of healing and forgiveness. Her long list of achievements include helping ban life without parole sentences for children, establishing a pilot program where incarcerated people could meet with victims, and playing an instrumental role in helping to abolish Colorado's death penalty. I am so honored to recognize Ms. Evans and her strength, vulnerability, and lifelong commitment to justice. Please, let's recognize Charlotta C. Evans, this year's Carl Whitehead Award winner.
My name is Charlotta Evans. I am honored and humbled to be the recipient of the Carl Whitehead Memorial Bill of Rights Award 2021. My achievements were by far not done single-handedly, but the passion that was stirred within me 25 years ago has not died. When I lost my baby boy of 3 years old to a tragic by the hands of children themselves, in order to right the wrongs in the criminal justice field, I had to become a sacrifice and disregard my very own grief, hurt, and pain. And I moved into the direction of unfamiliar territory. And I made myself familiar to advocacy, to juvenile justice and legislation. Social and restorative justice has not only become a lifestyle for me, but also a mission that yet belongs to us. I would like to thank Helen Griffith, formerly staff at ACLU, and Sarah Kraft of Equal Justice USA for making this momentous moment possible. Colorado legislators that have always lent a listening ear as trendsetters. Also, a huge gratitude to my fellow victim family members of Colorado and abroad that have taken their personal misfortunes and pain while tenacity. Also, a huge gratitude to my fellow victim family members of Colorado and abroad that have taken their personal misfortunes and pain while tenaciously turning impossible feats into possibilities. And finally, to my family who has watched on the sidelines with glee in their hearts, namely my surviving son, whom is my best friend and supporter, and my dear K-son, Xavier Biscuit, who guards me, guides me, nudges me, burdens me until actions are taken, leads me to the causes that have need for fighters, because freedom can't protect itself. Thank you.
Because freedom can't protect itself. Those are the words that drive ACLU of Colorado each and every day. Thank you so much for your leadership, Ms. Evans. We turn next to the Edward Sherman Award. Edward Sherman was one of the early members of the ACLU of Colorado who helped carry the litigation burden of the fledgling organization. This award recognizes outstanding legal work on behalf of furthering civil liberties in Colorado and is presented to attorneys who, like Edward Sherman, have shown spirit and heart in their generous gifts of time and talent to the cause of justice. We are thrilled to honor Hans Meyer with the Edward Sherman Award for his work advocating for immigrants' rights at the intersection of immigration law and the criminal legal system. He is a local and national leader on these issues and has been at the forefront of multiple Colorado campaigns regarding immigration, including documenting the presence of ICE at the Denver courthouse, statewide legislative reforms, and putting unrelenting pressure on Denver officials to pass protections for our residents, regardless of citizenship status. Outspoken and passionate, Hans Meyer has ushered in a new era of immigration policies in Colorado and has served as a mentor to countless attorneys, advocates, and stakeholders. ACLU of Colorado is honored to partner with him in his work on immigration rights and criminal reform. Please help us celebrate Hans Meyer.
Hi, my name is Hans Meyer, and I'm very humbled to be awarded the Edward Sherman Award this year by the ACLU of Colorado. I work in the intersection of immigration law and the criminal legal systems, where immigrant community members find themselves often trapped between the meat grinder of the criminal legal system and the deportation machinery of immigration and customs enforcement. And it can be sometimes a pretty dark place, where people are routinely denied basic constitutional and statutory rights, subject to abuse and mistreatment. That said, over the last 10 or 15 years, communities, particularly here in Colorado, have made major wins to defend and advance immigrant rights here in Colorado and around the country. Some of these on the state and local level include campaign work to resist the Secure Communities Criminalization Program, a 10-year campaign to undo illegal ICE detainers throughout the state of Colorado, capacitation and resource building in our indigent defense systems, the ADC system and the Public Defender's Office, passing legislation to bar ICE courthouse arrests, to prevent probation from collaborating with ICE, and to provide avenues for people to be able to withdraw unconstitutional deferred judgments. And that's just a few. There's many, many more. I feel really lucky to have been a small part of that work. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been a part of it. First and foremost, the ACLU of Colorado, including the legal shops and the policy shops, everyone in there, as well as our grassroots immigrant rights communities and their organizing. Incredible work done by AFSC, CIRC, COPA, Servicios de la Raza, and other organizations. To our elected leaders, including Senator Julie Gonzalez and other local and state elected leaders who have passed legislation to help build some of these protections back into our communities. and to every other activist, advocate, attorney, or community member who has put their time and their energy and their heart on the line to build these protections back into our communities on a local and a state level. Finally, I want to thank my good friend, Chris Lash, whose intellect, creativity, and humility were unparalleled in this work. I'm so humbled and grateful to receive this award. I feel very privileged to be a part of this work with everybody who's out there doing this on a daily basis. And I'm excited as we work collectively to continue to write the next chapter in this country's civil rights movement. Thank you so much for the award, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for your tireless efforts to advance immigrants' rights. Last, but certainly not least, I am honored to present this year's Larry Tajiri Media Award, named for the late Larry Tajiri, a former Denver Post columnist and staunch First Amendment supporter. This award recognizes outstanding media work on behalf of furthering civil liberties in Colorado. This year's award goes to Lori Lizarraga, Sonia Gutierrez, and Kristen Aguirre for fighting discrimination in the newsroom. All three journalists accepting this award tonight challenged 9 news station leaders on how they cover issues affecting Latinx people in Colorado and fought for more equitable representation of communities of color. In less than a year, 9 News let go of all 3 on-air Latino reporters, prompting Ms. Lizarraga to publish a piece in Westword documenting the discrimination she and her colleagues experienced at the station. Their activism led to 9 News parent company, which is one of the nation's largest owners of television stations, to update their language standard in immigration coverage. I'm so honored to present these incredible journalists and leaders with the Larry Tajiri Media Award.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the honor of this award, its namesake, and the privilege of being part of this year's Bill of Rights event. As journalists, we're tasked with the responsibility of holding power to account and bringing truth to the public. I never expected that I would risk the future of my career to live up to that responsibility. I never expected a community to be so worth the risk. Journalism is powerful, but if it doesn't represent all of our communities fairly and honestly, it doesn't hold the same power for everyone. And that's what I was thinking when I finally decided to write about an experience that I knew was harming the future of representative journalism. I wanted to speak up for those communities of Colorado who weren't being covered as often or as fairly as they should. Truly, the success of this piece can be found in the overwhelming support of so many of you and organizations like the ACLU of Colorado that have celebrated the impact of my piece and uplifted the value of our stories so well that 3 once nervous Latina journalists mustering the courage to speak up have become proud voices and outspoken advocates for fair representation in the news and on the news.
Hey everyone, I'm Kristen Aguirre, and I am so proud to be accepting this award that stems from a powerful piece written by my powerful friend, Lori. Girl, I'm so proud of you, and I wholeheartedly trusted you to share my story of stroke recovery and discrimination. I'd like to thank all the young stroke survivors, my medical team at Craig Hospital here in Denver, and above all, my family for constantly encouraging me to share my story. And of course, I couldn't have been so open without walking hand in hand with Lori and Sonia, who embrace all of me and remind me that I am Latina and we are tough and we do not give up easily. It's that strength that has allowed me to be vocal against a company that tried to use my flaws against me. But I now look at those flaws as superpowers. And now we know what happens when you try to silence Latinas. We get louder. And when we combine our stories, we go viral. So for all the little brown girls out there, the color of your skin, whatever makes you stand out, that's your superpower. So be vocal about it and never let anyone silence you. I also want to thank God because only He could take such ugly treatment and turn it into this beautiful moment. And to my mom and dad, I could not have survived these last 2 years without you. I love you both so much. And of course, thank you to the ACLU for elevating our voices. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
As I thought about what I was going to say, who was going to be watching, I thought this is the first time I can talk to so many of my mentors, so many of the people who helped shape me as a professional, the people who truly made it possible for me to become a journalist, all in one place. I want to say thank you. Thank you for your love, your support, your validation that helped me get through such a scarring experience. I thought about leaving journalism, getting out of the career that I passionately love, a career we worked so hard to build. I know so many watching were there when I first doubted my chances. Back when I was undocumented, wondering if college was going to be a possibility for me at all. Between the sacrifices of my parents and your guidance, we built a career we can all be so proud of. Between you, my family, and Lori's incredible courage, you all helped me make it very clear that my superpower is my lived experience, and that lived experience is not a liability, but a total asset. You make me feel so proud to be Latina, an immigrant, a journalist. You make me feel that what I have in me is enough and always has. Lori, it was your words and amazing ability to believe in yourself, believe in Kristen, and in me that helped me stay in journalism. Thank you to my family and mentors for taking me over that line then. Thank you for supporting me through this chapter. ACLU, thank you so much for providing this platform. Lori, Kristen, thank you for doing all of this together. I say this from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate all of you so much.
I still can't believe how far those 1,500 words have gone and how utterly beautiful it's been to see progress be born from pain. To see my piece update and improve immigration coverage at more than 60 news stations across the country. To see it energize Latinos and our allies in professional spaces literally around the world. To see it validate the experiences of the two women who joined me here, as well as the experiences of so many other journalists of color, made to feel as though their brownness was biased and their communities less newsworthy. When almost everyone else told me not to speak up, my big sister reminded me why I would. Thank you, sis, for keeping me true to myself. Thank you to my sources and friends, Dr. Ryan Ross, Jason McBride, Kristen Aguirre, and Sonia Gutierrez, who lent their names and voices to a piece that would not have been as powerful without them. Thank you to Westward for publishing my work in its true and original form. And thank you to the ACLU of Colorado. I know our success today stands on the shoulders of so many who came before us, who were speaking up long before I did without nearly so much support. I'm honored and very humbled that my risk was received by a community that not only believed me, but came alongside all three of us to demand better for myself, for future journalists of color, and for the communities we represent. Thank you. You are who took 1,500 words and made it progress. And I am so deeply grateful.
Congratulations to our awardees. We are so honored to celebrate you. Now that we've celebrated the victories of Colorado leaders, I'm eager to introduce the ACLU's first Black National Board President, Deborah Archer, who is a nationally recognized expert in civil rights and racial justice. Ms. Archer took on this new role at a pivotal moment, both at the ACLU and across the nation. She is a guiding voice in challenging the structures that fuel systemic racism, and she is leading both the country and the ACLU towards a future of systemic equality. I could not be more honored to welcome and introduce Deborah Archer.
Deborah, thank you so much for that kind introduction, and thank you for inviting me to speak with everyone to celebrate the important work of the ACLU of Colorado. I also want to say congratulations and welcome to you, to the ACLU family, Deborah. You're a remarkable and visionary leader. I'm excited to work with you and see how the ACLU of Colorado evolves under your and Scotty's leadership. Deborah and I share being ACLU firsts. She, the first Black person to lead the ACLU of Colorado, and me, the first person of color to serve as president of the ACLU. Something that Deborah and I share is also our passion for civil rights and civil liberties, and that it was instilled in us very early on in our lives. I became a civil rights lawyer for intensely personal reasons. I wanted to fight for the rights of people like me and families like mine to live without discrimination and to live with dignity and respect. I grew up in Connecticut as the child of Jamaican immigrants who worked really hard and yet struggled every single day to provide for our family. My parents also faced intense discrimination because they're Black, because they were immigrants, because they were broke, discrimination they really couldn't shield their children from. And when I was a child, my parents moved from Hartford, Connecticut to a working class Hartford suburb. They wanted to give us a chance for a better life, to live in a safer neighborhood, and to attend better schools. And when we moved, we were one of only 3 Black families in the neighborhood, and we were clearly not wanted. And our neighbors let us know every opportunity they had. And I remember the day that we woke up to find that our house had been vandalized and KKK had been painted on our house and our car. I was really so young, and my parents had to explain to me and to my brother who the KKK was and why some of our neighbors didn't want us there. And I was truly terrified after that to be in our house, to play in our yard, to walk in those streets, to go to school. And so I figured out very early on that I wanted to fight against the discrimination that my parents had to navigate every day, that sought to drive my family from our home. But I also wanted to understand the racism that required my parents move from a predominantly Black neighborhood to a predominantly white neighborhood in order for us to have a quality education. And the racism that meant living in a white neighborhood was somehow safer and better, although we always felt like constant targets. I've learned that America is fundamentally an idea, an ethos, a set of principles and demands. The story of America is, at its heart, a story about the fight to protect and implement those principles and demands. Who gets to feel like they belong? Who gets to benefit from the unprecedented wealth of this nation? Who has access to the opportunities, the potential that being in America offers? Who gets to receive the equal protection of our laws? Who gets to live with safety and dignity? The work of the ACLU is fundamentally about closing the gap between the America that is promised and the America that is. And what is so stunning about America, really so heartbreaking, is how America resists closing that gap, how oppression persists by evolving, how oppression is creative. Think about the way that racism has persisted through adaptation. America ratified the 15th Amendment and guarantees Black men the right to vote, and then America responds with poll taxes, grandfather clauses, and voter ID laws. America makes Jim Crow and housing discrimination illegal, and America responds with redlining, racially exclusionary housing policies, the criminalization of poverty, and living while Black. America makes slavery illegal, and America responds with mass incarceration, police brutality, and racial terror. In his famous poem, Let America Be America Again, Langston Hughes wrote, "Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me." This is our constant struggle, bridging the gap between the America that was promised, the America in Langston Hughes's poem, and those who oppose that vision. But we have the power to make America be America. We have just celebrated 100 years of the ACLU. Ellis Coase, who recently wrote a book on the history of the ACLU called Democracy If We Can Keep It, said that the history of the ACLU is a story about the evolution of America itself. And this is true because the ACLU has played a critical role in that evolution, either leading the way or working in coalition with other advocates and communities to push and pull America to evolve and live up to its constitutional obligations. That's the legacy of the ACLU. We stand up for the idea of America. As we move forward to continue to shape America over the next 100 years, we have the responsibility to rethink the work we are doing, how we are doing it, and who's doing it. We all have an opportunity and really a responsibility to support the communities most hurt by the prior administration and to seize this moment to expand and deepen protections for civil rights and civil liberties. That responsibility means that we fight to increase access to the ballot box and fight against those who think only some of our votes matter. That responsibility means that we fight the escalating attacks on transgender people across the country. It means that we fight to protect free speech and privacy. And that responsibility means that we fight for meaningful criminal legal system reform, for immigrants' rights, for LGBTQ rights, and for reproductive rights. And that list alone could keep us busy for the next decade. It is exemplified in the innovative and intersectional work of the ACLU of Colorado. The presence of affiliates in every state on the ground, working directly with impacted communities, driving innovation is our superpower. The ACLU is strong because our affiliates are strong. And we see that powerfully here in Colorado, where you are leading work on smart justice, on immigrants' rights, on reproductive rights, and the decriminalization of poverty. But given all that we have lived through the past several years, racial justice must be at the forefront of our work. We are at a point in this nation's history where it is clear that we not only have an opportunity, but a responsibility to dismantle the architecture of racial inequality and do the work to advance equality and justice for everyone. For a long time, racial justice advocates have been calling for a third and final Reconstruction to address historic and systemic racism and inequality, to create radically different legal frameworks that center human dignity as central to our racial justice agenda, and that finally and meaningfully address how race, class, and place intersect to shape people's lives. The events of the past several years have made it painfully clear that we cannot wait any longer before we take bold action to move us forward. The ACLU Systemic Equality Agenda is a powerful move forward, and again here the ACLU of Colorado has been a leading partner. But we know that in order to see deep and meaningful change, it's not just about what work we do, but how we do it. We not only have to navigate ourselves to have a bigger tent, but do the work to bring people into that tent. The ACLU often says that we are fighting for an America where we, the people, means all of us. And that's evident in all of the work of the ACLU, and that speaks to me deeply. And I've always felt connected to the work of the ACLU and the ACLU as an organization. But the same has not always felt true for so many other people. But the ACLU continues to move closer to being an organization that fully lives our values, including around equity, inclusion, and belonging, and to build a nationwide organization that reflects the diversity of our clients and the communities we serve. We see that in initiatives like the ACLU of Colorado's Expanding the Table for Justice, being engaged, trusted, collaborative partners, engaging community members and organizations in shaping how the ACLU moves forward. Expanding the Table for Justice is a powerful example of our leadership for the next century. We live in a moment where voices that have traditionally not been heard are being amplified. We need to use our power, our resources, our reach, and our influence to join in that amplification. We need to reach out and engage constituencies that have traditionally not seen themselves as part of the ACLU, nor seen themselves in our work. Toward the end of his poem, Langston Hughes makes a promise. It is a promise we are all called upon to embrace every day. America, oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. By working for the ACLU of Colorado, by being a member of the board, by being a supporter and a community partner, you are joining that legacy and that fight. It won't always make you popular, but it will always make you proud. And I can't imagine a time in our nation's recent history where joining that legacy is more important. And I'm grateful to be doing this work alongside all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah, for those moving words and for your vulnerability in sharing the traumatic experiences of racism that inform your work today. I hope that all that you have heard tonight has inspired you to join our fight to protect and extend civil rights and civil liberties. Please consider investing in this collective fight by making a donation to support the work of the ACLU. In the chat box is a link to our donation form, which includes options for tax-deductible gifts of all sizes. As you well know, the ACLU fights for advancements of civil liberties and liberties across numerous issue areas and through a number of different avenues: legal cases, public policy, campaigns, education, and communications. Tonight, through our musical guest, Neoma, we will leverage music as an avenue of social change. Neoma is an Ecuadorian pop musician who currently lives in Denver and is one of the most popular acts of the Ecuadorian indie scene.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Neoma, Ecuadorian singer-songwriter now based in Denver. As an immigrant and part of the LGBTQ plus community, I've always advocated for civil rights for these two groups. The ACLU works to ensure that lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, and non-binary people belong everywhere and can live openly and authentically without discrimination, harassment, or violence. The Constitution... Otra vez. The Constitution guarantees the fundamental rights of due process and equal protection to every person in this country, regardless of their immigration status. The ACLU is dedicated to expanding and enforcing the civil liberties and civil rights of immigrants and to combating public and private discrimination against them. Baby, just take me home. I don't wanna do this alone. Remember when you were young, this used to hurt. Baby, this is out of control. You can't deny my love. Remember when you were young, this used to hurt. But you can stay if you wanna, or to tell you last night. Maybe we should hit up. Remember when you were young? Don't waste so long. I can't get you out of my mind. This is the time to look back. Remember when you were young? Don't think so much, but you can stay if you wanna, or you can take me out of this town. But you can stay if you wanna, or you can take me out of this town. I can't get you out. Thanks so much. I can't get you out. Thanks so much. I can't get you out. Thanks so much. I can't get you out. Thanks so much, but you can stay if you wanna, or you can take me out of this town. But you can stay if you wanna, or you can take me out of this town. You can stay if you wanna, or you can take me out of this town. But you can stay if you wanna, or you can take me out of this town. Thank you so much, ACLU, for having us. My name is Neoma. Thank you for fighting for LGBTQ plus and immigrant rights. And thank you so much for having us here today. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Neoma, for using your incredible talents to bring attention to the causes that matter to you. We are so grateful you joined us this evening. There are a number of ways to support the ACLU of Colorado. If you haven't already, please consider making a tax-deductible donation of any supplies to support this event and all the work of the ACLU of Colorado. The link can be found in the chat. Also follow us on social media for updates about future events and how you can play an active role in defending and extending civil rights and liberties across our state. We remain forever grateful for your support and engagement. We are in a moment of historical transition, and in such time, we must be bold and unapologetic in our demands if we want a better nation, a stronger Colorado, and more equitable, resilient communities. We have a mandate to address white supremacy, homophobia, xenophobia, and all other systems of oppression head on. It is only through naming, locating, and addressing these systems will we begin to dismantle them. Thank you for being part of this endless fight for justice. Thank you again for joining us this evening for an amazing Bill of Rights event. Have a good evening.